This is Domestic Briefing right here on Top Accolade News. We're starting with a focus on politics. In a dramatic political shift ahead of the 2027 presidential election, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party's Peter Obi, and other top opposition figures have officially adopted the African Democratic Congress as their new political base, unveiling former Senate President David Mark and ex-Osun State Governor Rauf Aregbesola as interim national chairman and secretary respectively. The coalition, launched at the Yaradua Center in Abuja, aims to unseat President Bola TINUBU, citing economic hardship, insecurity, and democratic backsliding under his APC-led government. However, the move has sparked internal backlash, with ADC's 2023 presidential candidate Dumebi Kachukwu and other party loyalists accusing the coalition leaders of hijacking the platform for personal gain, while the PDP leadership distanced itself, warning of displaying actions against members supporting the alliance. Despite criticism, the coalition insists it's building a national movement to restore Nigerians' democracy and reverse growing public discontent. Still in politics, the Julius Abure-led faction of the Labour Party has issued a 48-hour ultimatum to Peter Obi to formally resign from the party following his support for the new opposition coalition. In a statement by the faction's National Publicity Secretary, Obiora, the group denounced the coalition as an alliance of recycled and desperate politicians seeking power for personal gain, not national interests. Ifo accused Obi of holding nocturnal meetings to lure Labour Party members into the coalition and declared that anyone aligning with the group must leave the party immediately. Meanwhile, Obi defended his decision, stating that no single group can rescue Nigeria alone and expressing his commitment to building a united opposition to unseat President Bola TINUBU in 2027. Now in business, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and key oil sector stakeholders have intensified calls on the federal government to sell the national ailing Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna refineries, describing them as a massive economic drain with no output despite over $3 billion spent on rehabilitation. MAN's Director General Segun Ajayi Kadiri criticized the government's continued investment in the facilities, urging full privatization to curb waste, fraud and inefficiency. Supporting this stance, the Crude Oil Refineries Association and energy experts call for the refineries to be sold, if necessary, as scrap, with proceeds redirected to fund modular refineries and public-private partnerships. The refineries, which have been declared operational and later shut down again, continue to rack up overhead costs while producing no fuel, prompting concerns over political interference and poor management under NNPC. As probes by the EFCC continue into over $7 billion allegedly squandered, stakeholders like former President Olusegun Obasanjo and Dangote Group CEO Aliko Dangote have echoed the urgent need for privatization, arguing that the government has no business running refineries. Now in crime. A France-based Nigerian Newton Jemide has been sentenced to 3 years and 5 months in a U.S. federal prison for his role in an $8 million disaster relief fraud targeting federal aid for wildlife victims. Sentenced by Judge Debra of the U.S. District Court, the 47-year-old was extradited from France after pleading guilty to orchestrating a scheme where stolen identities were used to fraudulently obtain FEMA benefits via Green Dot debit cards. Jemide and his co-conspirators directed operatives in the U.S. to cash out funds and launder the proceeds while taking steps to conceal their identities. In addition to his prison term, Jemide was ordered to pay over $520,000 in restitution and forfeit more than $311,000 to the U.S. government, with 3 years of supervised release to follow his imprisonment. More in crime. The Niger Delta Progressive Youth Forum has condemned what it described as a coordinated media smear campaign against the managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Dr. Samuel Obuku, allegedly orchestrated by political enemies. In a statement by its Presidential General, Dr. Theo Isido, the group dismissed reports claiming Samuel is covertly funding former President Goodluck Jonathan's supposed 2027 presidential bid, calling the story false and malicious. The publication, they said, falsely alleged the NDDC purchased a Genegua property from Jonathan to indirectly support his campaign. Isido stressed that the property does not belong to Jonathan and that both Jonathan and Samuel have shown no political ambitions. Now in international relations, Nigeria and St. Lucia have signed a landmark technical manpower assistance agreement to deploy skilled Nigerians professionals to the Caribbean nation, marking a significant step in South-South cooperation. The agreement, signed in Castries by Nigeria's Technical Aid Corps Director General Yusuf Yakub and St. Lucia's Acting Permanent Secretary Janelle Modestis Stephen, allows Nigeria to send voluntary doctors, teachers, agriculturalists, and other experts on 2-year assignments fully funded by the Nigerian government. Presidential spokesperson Bayo Ononuga hailed the deal as a fulfillment of President TINUBU's vision to deepen regional ties, noting that similar deployments have recently occurred in Libya, Sierra Leone, and Jamaica. With international demand rising, the TAC initiative is now being recognized not only as a diplomatic tool, but also as a potential revenue-generating venture, showcasing Nigeria's human capacity on the global stage. Still on domestic updates, residents of Etomi in Etun local government area of Cross River State have staged a protest against the state government's plan to prioritize a cocoa estate located in their community, warning that such a move would violate existing agreements and threaten their livelihoods. Elderly farmers, youth, and women involved in cocoa production marched with placards rejecting the privatization, which they say was announced without their consultation, despite a long-standing agreement that prioritizes the community in any such decision. Community leader Mbekabo emphasized that their forebears donated the land under the condition that any sale or lease would involve the landlords first. Women and youth leaders echoed the demand, insisting that if the government no longer wishes to support smallholder farmers, it should relinquish control and return the land. In response, Commissioner for Agriculture Johnson Iboko assured the protesters that the government will not take any action that harms its people and that Governor Basi Otu is open to reviewing the decision. That is the domestic news update for now. Not to Accolade News. Do stay with us for more domestic updates and development. I am Blessing Basi.